the backhand return to serve. A lot of people's nemesis. So I think it's definitely worth having a little look at this. Got my shooting on the left and me on my right. We had Stingray ball machine throwing a few balls into your hand. Pretty accurate. Like the ball is in a pretty similar position over here. So I think this is a good place to use it and dissect this backhand return to serve. And you'll see another video that I've done where I'm filming the same shots, the same return to serve, but from a different angle. So go check that out as well, because there's going to be a little bit of different nuance in that video also. Okay, so just before we dive in, as always, please do click in the link in the description. Grab your free personalized swing audit. Would be more than happy and love to do this with yourself and help you with your game as much as possible. Okay, so as always, I like to play a bit of spot the difference to start. Let's see if you can notice anything there. I'm just going to run this through a few times because I like players to get their coach's eye on and see hopefully what I'm starting to see, because that's where the greatest improvements get made. Not just listening to me ramble on about things the whole time. You people and guys and girls need to be able to go and have a little look at it yourself. Okay. So hopefully you see a few things there as we start to go. So first thing, we tend to track it quite nicely at about the same point. Feel I'm much more loaded. Look at how my racket is that side of my body and my student's still trying to really work to get it there. So I think that I would like to get him to rotate a little bit earlier. I think we're both rotating quite nicely. It kind of looks like I'm looking at the corner of my eye a little bit more, but that's only a small little thing. So let me go to the bits that I was looking at before as we got it. So some very good stuff here in regard to placing the left foot down. We both placed the left foot down pretty nicely. And let me just go back because I want to see this. Yeah, I started in a slightly higher up position. So, if I was asking my student if it was being a bit fussy, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I think he knew obviously the ball where it was going by now. So what he did is he stepped back a little bit. I would like to see you step forward. For me, it's roughly a racket length from the corner of the service box. That's where you want to be. Our stance is pretty similar. And as the ball comes around, there should be a lot of tracking. What I mean by tracking, I'm watching the ball, and as I'm doing it, I'm picking my racket up and I'm picking my racket across my body. So as I'm going there, you can see there, it's going across. And I do obviously a bit of a skip movement to get back there, place the left foot, because ideally one of the biggest things that you can get right on the backhand return to serve is transferring that weight. I have to do a bit more of a lunge than a 2-footed base, but that's totally fine because that ball is getting into a semi-tough position. But I would say that's pretty solid. If you look at my base there, you can't see it from this angle, but my knees are nice and strong and bent, and I'm in that optimal position. I'm leaning in ever so slightly with my back. And if I can get this position there, this creates massive consistency on the return to serve. Just take a look at my student. What are you noticing? What are you seeing there? So he gets good with his base and his feet, but what's happening there? Right, definitely too close. And you can see there by the way his chest is lifting and he's starting to lean backwards. So firstly, he's losing the optimal body weight because things are falling backwards ever so slightly. But not only that, this is where it gets a little bit more scary. There's going to be some inconsistencies. As he's swinging and as he's pulling away, look at the difference there. Look at how his shot, he rotates around, pretty much looking at the front wall now, whereas I'm still trying to keep myself attached to the side wall. What I like to think about when I'm hitting a ball down that backhand side or the forehand side, think of that side wall as a massive movie screen. I'm going to draw a screen there like that. That needs to be a massive cinema screen. As you're hitting a ball down the backhand side, face it. Look at that more often. That's where you are. You want to be sitting in your seat watching the cinema. Looking at the front wall, there's not a bunch of information there. Okay, yes, I'm turning my eyes and my head a little bit to look at the front wall, but I'm equally so trying to keep myself attached to that big screen, that big side wall as much as possible. Makes sense, doesn't it? Ball's going down the side wall. I want to keep it as straight as possible. I want to move back to the tee in a side on-ish position. Why should I rotate too much to the front wall? Why should I open up too much? Again, just a little side note and a tip there. And of course, you're going to open up. Of course, the chest is going to be open, but as late as possible. Look at my shoot on the left there. Look at how much when he hits, because he's too close as well, opened up. So I think there's two little issues here. There's the spacing, but his eagerness to look at the front wall. And he knows this. We've talked about this and he's working on this at the moment, that he's very, very eager to see the ball hit the front wall. Do you know what? We need to trust that you know where that ball is. If you've been playing squash for, even over 3 months, even if you're quite a beginner, you know where that front wall is. Keep your head down, keep yourself side on, give yourself appropriate space to hit that ball towards the front wall and not have to desire to see it hit there, because it opens up your chest and shoulders and gives you some inconsistencies. Okay, so let's go back a couple of steps. Again, there's a lot of good commonalities. Left foot down, stepping in, good base. Very, very good base there for my student. Love that. Really, really good. Like I said, probably a little bit too close, but it's that two-footed base to transfer that weight. And these are relatively tough lob serves. I had the Stingray machine just tickling the ball under that line there to be able to push us deep in the court and to be able to hit it. So I'm going to go forward quite a bit now. Let's see where that ball ends up. So, I'll take that one. I'm actually running back to turn the camera off on that one because it's the last one. But if I was doing that properly, I would skip and I'd probably come up to the tee. What I'm just trying to show you is where the ball's finishing and ending up. I think it was a pretty decent shot. Again, you can't quite see where it is, but look at that trajectory. I'm not going too low. If I'm being a bit fussy, I might want that a little bit higher coming up, but it does pretty well. It lands in that optimal position there, pushing my opponent into the back of the court, and I need to take that tee there. And ideally, if I've got a good one, I'm floating my tee across a little bit. I'm not coming to the traditional tee where the tee is drawn on the floor. I'm floating it. I want to constrict my opponent. Let's see my student's return a serve. Really nice. Look at that. Really, really good. He chipped that probably better than I did. Sending it to the back. Obviously, he's waiting for the next ball, so there's not a huge amount of time there. So let's just go back and see his trajectory. Yeah, it's decent. Like he's getting that ball moving at a nice angle off his strings, chipping it up into zone 3 or 4 on the front wall, sending it through to the back. But I'm just going to go back to that release and that follow through, because that for me is probably the biggest, most important thing. As we're getting there, I'm just going to use mine for a starting point. I'm releasing, follow through, racket going up to the ceiling, the top of the racket head there, looking upwards, nice and expressive. I'm just zooming in there, just want to do a quick little check on the grip, making sure that top finger is always separate than the rest of the fingers. Grip at this moment is actually sitting across my fingers, not into my palm. So I always like to just do a little grip check if I can. Looking at my students here. Again, his grip was okay, possibly a little bit fist-like, but he gets it in his fingers nice. But it's the side-on position. I'm releasing that arm, going into my 1, just to always reinforce this, the 1, 2, 3 part of the swing, where 1 is the optimal starting position. 2 does that. And this is such an important thing for number 2. Look how flat that goes. It's going horizontal. The strings are looking straight up to the ceiling. You can't see my knuckles and my forearm, but trust me, they're looking up at the ceiling. That wrist is still slightly cocked because what it's doing, it's bringing the racket just wrapping around my left elbow, left hip area. So often I see that floppy backhand wrist, the rusty swinging gait, I call it, where there's a bulge in the wrist and it turns the whole racket face in the wrong direction. Look at the back and it just gets super, super messy. You'll see loads of videos of me talking about this, but always just looking at that 1, 2, 3 part of the swing. And you'll probably notice it's not a massive diamond shape. I'm not dipping the shoulder like I normally would on the ground stroke. I'm keeping myself relatively horizontal there. My swing is a little bit more reduced in position 1. I'm not tilting it over like I normally would if I'm trying to gain a bit of power, because right now it's more about control, isn't it? I want to get that ball simply and consistently, a solid contact there, open racket face, nice, strong follow through, staying side on, releasing and skipping back to the tee with that relatively high follow through. And you see at that point, you can see the blade of my racket, look at the camera. So I think with these little tips, your return to serve can become a lot better. There's not many ways to practice it besides in the match, but if you do have a training partner, putting that ball in there, maybe give each other 10, 15, 20 serves each, it does wonders to just practice that return to serve. And again, with my student, just looking that he's leaning backwards, you can almost see it there. There's almost a little lean and drop backwards. What I find interesting, something I didn't notice before, look how early his racket is gone. He seemed like he's got into that position 2 almost too early, because we made contact at about the same point. He's just ahead of me there. So let me try. No, actually, I think we're pretty much at the same contact point. But I'm really glad I picked up on that tip. So look at this. So as the ball's coming through, again, pretty much exactly the same point, look how quickly he's dropped that. He's a bit too eager to get it down there. What I'm doing is I'm trying to store my energy, keep it locked in for as long as possible, and only going down to position 2 and 3 as late as possible. And not late like I'm going to be rushed or everything like a bit crazy now, but it's optimal. And what I find really interesting, look at how, and again, I'm not too averse to this, but look at how his racket drops just below the horizontal. I say that's a bit severe. If that's the horizontal there, the racket possibly can drop just below it. I think mine does. There we go. You can see mine drops, like a lesser version of the horizontal. Like at my maximum, that's about there. Whereas my shooter's maximum, it's probably a little bit severe there. So then it's a bit of a kind of an effort to get back up there. So again, I think that's a real good maybe takeaway point. Hold your position one for as long as possible. Keep your energy stored. Rotate yourself. Get side on. Really see if you can do that, because if you get in position too early, your energy is dissipated and you won't be able to necessarily punch that ball and go back into it too well. And again, the spacing, the leaning back for my student, just not that optimal. See mine on the right here. It's strong, it's balanced, it's leaning in, and I've got a good lunge. So if you do want to see the second video, please go and have a check of that, because there's going to be some different nuance because I filmed it from a different angle, and it's always good to get these different options. So please do click in the link in the description. As I said, go grab the free swing audit, have a look at the squash playbook while you're there. And if you're liking this channel, please do share, subscribe, comment. I'm more than happy to help out the squash community as much as possible. Okay, take care, everyone. I'll see you at the next one. Bye.